Oh, welcome back, mere mortal lights out there, to another session of Meandering.
I was going to say, we are the dear daughters today, because I'm feeling dusty.
Dusty. Well, I was going to say the same thing. I'm running on 3 and a little bit of hours of sleep.
Yeah.
I'm going to take it slow. I'm going to take it simple today. So if you've ever encountered some of our podcasts and you've gone, oh, they're going a little bit over our heads, not possible because we're just mere mortals. Yeah, today's going to be probably a simpler one.
For sure.
There's going to be a few things. So anyways, today, folks, mere mortal lights out there, Meandering is a chance for us to just, talk what's on our mind. Just talk through. I hope you can hear me through the wind that's coming through at the moment. I was complaining to Karen about there was a little bit of wind in the previous couple of episodes that we've been doing, and today there's a hell of a lot more wind. But let's get back to the dusty bit. I actually want to ask you a question about being dusty.
Okay.
So I woke up this morning and I went, oh, goddamn. Okay, I got 3 and a bit hours of sleep, but I feel like I can function. I can go through my day today. I'm going to have to take away a couple of things. Like, I'm not going to train today.
Ooh.
Because I'm like,
oh my God.
Exactly. It's like, oh God. So I'm not going to train. But I've encountered this with when I did the 96 kilometer hike as well.
Yeah.
That I can do like a night of terrible sleep or no sleep at all for the sake of achieving some goal or for the sake of just keep on going. But that following one, like to do another round of that, maybe I could back in the day, and I'm talking like when I was early 20s. But now to do that would be some sort of like chaos. Like that would just not end well at all. Like I feel like I'd have to take a few couple of days to recover from something like that. Do you recall ever doing like back-to-back, like really heavy back-to-back sort of sessions, or what were the last time?
Well, you know what? I feel like my capacity in some way is increasing.
Really?
Yeah, because
For getting dusty?
because I used to just really struggle with, one, staying out late into the night.
Okay.
So we're out till 2:30 a.m. or something like that. So it was a longish night. I'm feeling pretty good today, and I got my roughly 7-ish hours, probably a little bit less, six and a half hours sleep, and honestly, like I'm feeling better than when I remember us using having drinking at our friend Joey's place, episode 5.
Oh yes, okay, yep.
I remember those days were just complete write-offs, but today I'm feeling like, you know what, I'm gonna go exercise after this, and maybe in the evening I'll even have some things. So that's just getting to that point where, funnily enough, I feel like my capacity is increasing a bit.
But what if you had to follow that up with another session tonight?
So,
like, imagine if tonight you either went out again, or you, for some unknown reason, something like an emergency happened, you had to be up awake till 4 a.m. doing some stuff, and again get into it like early the next day afterwards.
I think that day would still be hard, but you know what? You suggesting that right now doesn't sound odious to me. I feel like I could honestly.
That's pretty cool.
That. Yeah.
Okay.
And what's triggering this? I'm not actually sure, man. I think maybe it's like because I've started a dance. We're doing some dancing last night, and I was actually getting some props outside because I was doing a little bit of salsa.
Yes, yeah.
And this Brazilian girl actually thought I could dance, which was hilarious.
Which is amazing.
And then when we were actually inside and she was dancing with me, she was just like, "Oh shit, what have I got myself into?"
But then again, you were doing the basic steps.
I was trying. Yes. I think though the enjoyment aspect is more there now. So like, if I go out to a nightclub, I'm going to enjoy it more. Whereas in the past, it was like, man, I'm just not comfortable.
Why is it? Okay, so let's get into that. So the enjoyment side of things, do you think of like a nightclub? Do you think it's purely the fact of dancing, or is there something else?
I think dancing's the main thing.
Okay,
yeah.
Because it's funny you say this, because I think I've always had a real enjoyment of going out, and maybe for a long time I didn't think about it this way, but whenever I went out and danced, I found it to be like a really enjoyable night. And when I think about like last night, we're like, oh, we danced heaps. Like I was dancing like everything. And if you ever see me out, mere mortal lights, if you're ever in Brisbane and you see me out, one thing's almost for certain, unless it's like the middle of winter, I'm going to be a sweaty mess. From dancing, I'm going to be a sweaty mess. But I just love it. Like I really, really enjoy just dancing. Like for me, and I don't know whether that's just like culturally, I just had that from like very, very young or something else. But as you were saying, you've also finding some enjoyment from dancing, or at least getting some dancing on.
I think the other part is I'm much more comfortable now in... I used to always sort of see interactions as you have to get something out of it, or there's a pressure on on chatting, or like there needs to be a purpose behind it in a way.
Yeah.
Whereas like last night, for example, I was totally fine just talking to the random dude sitting beside me, being like, "Hey, what's up, man?"
And even though it was a bit of a struggle conversation.
Oh, yeah, like it was sort of pointless conversation. Went nowhere. Was.
And I'm also just thinking back to when we were maybe 21, 22, 23, like that age, maybe even younger, where when you went out, there was like maybe at least two things in my mind. You either went out to go get smashed, like you were like, we're going to pre-drink super hard, we're going to go out and just drink even more, and we're going to have like a fantastic drunk night. Two, you'd go out and either you were like with a partner, and so you're just having a good time, or you were out there trying to find like
trying to get laid.
Exactly, you're trying to find the opposite sex. You're like, I want to find somebody, I want to like just make out with somebody, I want to dance with people, and I think maybe the first one, okay, that's fine, because that's like you're just going out for enjoyment, but you know, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to get absolutely like smashed to have a good time. But taking or maybe away those two views of like, oh, that's why you go out, but literally just going out because you just want to have a good time in terms of maybe dancing or just having good music or just being around people, kind of flips a little bit of the scenario of like, well, you're no longer going out and, okay, you might not achieve the whole, you know, seeing like meeting someone and getting laid, or maybe getting absolutely smashed because you don't want to be spending that much money, but like it's really easy to just go out for a dance. Like that is the easiest thing to do for most places as long as COVID ain't stopping it. So I feel like for me now, that's like, oh, that's an enjoyable thing. Just go and dance.
I want to take you to a salsa sort of party thing, because I know there's particular clubs on, you know, it'd be like weird or slightly unusual times because it's not the rage.
What would be like an unusual time?
So I'm sort of thinking like Friday at 6 p.m. starting, or maybe, you know, a Sunday night, something like that. So
similar to, so here for Brisbane people might know, there's like Cloudland where they do salsa nights on a Thursday night, I believe.
Yeah. So like that, but it's in a club pretty much designed for Latin salsa or something. So it'll be like even the name of the club or the name of the bar is salsa, or, you know,
whatever you want to call it.
So I think I should try and, well, we should both definitely go out to one of those.
I think that would be really cool. Okay, I want to talk to my main topic, and then I'll let you get into some of the other ones. Squid Game.
Yeah.
The squid. So,
of course, we're not usually on the top of the social trends.
We're usually not, but
pretty
this time around we seem to be. And we're not going to give any spoilers. Also, because I'm probably a couple of episodes ahead of you. I don't know. But also, just give an idea. How would you describe Squid Game to somebody?
I would describe it as a shittier version of my original theory for the best game show. Because I was thinking, like, you know what would make this really good?
Yeah.
If they were all half brothers and half sisters. Because then you've got that element of, you know, so the game, the Squid Game in a nutshell is people are having desperate, lonely lives. They need money quickly, essentially, and so they somewhat involuntarily enter into this game where a lot of them die, and it's sort of like survival of the fittest.
Yep. Through like childlike
games. Yep. They go and no, I won't speak more than that. That's the essence of it.
It's a Korean show, and I actually saw just recently it was the whoever created it, can't remember his name, but he pitched it like 10 years ago or 8 years ago, something to like a long time ago. It didn't get picked up for a long time.
It's not super novel. I mean, I can think of similar ones. You know,
I don't know,
Hunger Games, Death Race, The Running Man. They all combine. You know, it's a
very similar premises.
Yeah,
I don't know what made it like blow up. I have no idea. But the point that I was going to ask you was, so it's through childhood kind of games that they have to, you know, play again. So the first one, which we've both seen, and this is not going to be like too much of a spoiler because it's literally the first episode and it's everywhere in terms of like TikTok or other places. Green light, red light sort of game where it's like, you know, you can only move when they green light, and red light you have to stop, and if you like they catch you moving, they shoot you. You die. What? And I was thinking in my mind, okay, what would be like the Australian edition?
Brandy.
What games would it be?
It'd be a tennis ball coated with acid.
Yeah.
And you have gloves, so obviously you can pick up balls and throw them without your hands burning off.
Yep.
And also catch, which is in Brandy, if you catch it, you're not out. Is that correct, or is Brandy?
I believe so.
Okay,
that sounds familiar.
Yeah. Well, anyway, in this version, you're allowed to catch it, and so essentially, you're just throwing balls of acid at people.
Yeah.
That's
so
my version.
I think we should explain to people like what the normal game is, and then be like, what's the
Well,
equivalent
Brandy is
Squid
just
Game version?
throwing a game. Yeah, you have a
It's like
tennis
handball.
ball. Yeah.
It's like handball with a tennis ball.
No, not handball. No.
No.
Not even close, man.
What?
Brandy is, there's one person who's it, and they have a tennis ball. They throw at someone. If
yeah.
it hits you, then you're it as well, in essence. And now sometimes there's multiple balls that are introduced into the game. So
Yeah.
like now that other person has a ball, and usually you're in a large enough area.
field,
sort of
yeah.
like the area around here where there's sort of places to hide, but also places to run. So it's got that element of running and cardio fitness, but
Yeah.
also, you know, the hand-eye coordination. I think, yeah, you're probably not allowed to catch it, but in my game,
In your game,
you're
there
out-
is, yeah.
you are now.
My
and
one-
then it's a process of elimination. One person starts off as it, and they're trying to hit everyone else with a ball, essentially.
Yeah.
Or you can play the freeform version, which is one ball, you throw it at someone, they get hit, and then they're
And
now
it's got
it.
acid. Well, it's got acid on it, so like.
Yeah, no. So like, there's just the child game.
Oh, gotcha.
You hit them. They're now
yeah,
it.
that's a child game. Yeah,
Yeah.
with acid
Yeah.
with the ball. That's Australian for you. Yeah, my one was Red Rover. Red Rover. So it'd be similar where you gotta like run from basically like one side of a field to the other in a big open field, and there's normally people who are it who try to like get you and they call out Red Rover when you go and run out. I think that's how the game played.
Usually they say it's like
Come over Red Rover.
Yeah, come over Red Rover. I choose, and then you can choose one person.
Yep.
And then you could just say, I think like Red Rover, just Red Rover, and then everyone
goes. Yeah, but this time down, it wouldn't be like people who would be it. It would be those squid like soldier people, and they'd have like swords something. So you have to like kind of like run around them, without them like chopping off your limbs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that would be the other one. I haven't seen the other games, obviously, but what it also made me think was I feel like it made me stop and think to something that I haven't really thought about. It was like, oh, the school kids in like Korea would like these games seem really odd. Like that game of just like cracking the circle and you ain't got to that.
I've only watched the first two.
Okay, so yeah, so there's this weird one around.
Don't
just
tell me.
Breaking cookies,
Okay.
right? It's just about breaking cookies or breaking like honeycomb.
Okay.
Where I was like, wow, that's like a game. I'm like, what the hell? That seems oddly strange. And I was trying to remember for this podcast like some weird games that we played in Colombia, but I couldn't recall it. But I reckon there'd be some odd games.
Some
Not like
strange
even
stuff.
the ones that we're talking about. There's like some super random ones. I could ask Dukes about this. I reckon Papua New Guinea would have some super odd one, like I don't know, slap your hand against like a tree or something.
Yeah, they probably have ones involving stuff which is more accessible, like, you know, old tires or, you know, shit you can just find randomly around, and you can turn that into games.
Into some sort of game.
Yeah.
I'm sure we did that too.
Good. All right, my one that I want to discuss, the first one is, we sort of touched on this recently, was will we ever be explainers, like people who are good at explaining?
Oh, yeah.
So we just got a message on Instagram from Katie, probably Katie, Two Girls in a Podcast, who I chatted with recently, and she was like, oh, so what is an NFT? And we had a whole episode on NFTs and if they're a fad, and we didn't even explain what they are.
Nice.
Mostly because we had done that previously.
Yeah.
So
True.
it sort of feels like I don't want to. Neither of us really wanted to go over it.
Correct. But this is the odd thing about podcasting as well, because to us it does feel, and there are people out there who listen to us quite a bit, it does feel like the journey. Like, you know, from the stuff that we talked about 3 months ago, where we're up to now and whatnot. But there are some people who might just listen to like one episode, like one random episode, and be like, why are they talking about this?
And there's
Like, where's the
something in the Boostagrams we'll go over with that as well.
Okay.
But I wanted to ask you, do you think we'll ever have that ability to relay stuff in an understandable format, as in like really get down to the essence of it? And you know how it's sort of you can't you don't know the topic if you can't explain it simply, essentially. I feel like that's not a skill I'm suited for.
I'm like in many minds about this. I'm gonna say that, you know, when you know something really well, you will explain it. Like, if you can explain something simple, it's because you like know something well, right? Now, will we ever get to the point that we know things really well? Yes to some things, no to a lot of other things. But I tend to go towards like, I feel like we're gonna get better. Karen was trying to find his bloody water bottle going around, trying to put the water bottle in, was just underneath you. I think that we're not going to get really good at explaining things so that everyone can like dilute it well. No, I don't think that's going to be us, definitely. But what I think we're going to be good at is breaking things down from like a very mere mortal perspective. So what I mean by that is, I don't think I'll be able to explain to you the exact details of like what an NFT is in a very concise, very encapsulated manner that you can kind of take away and be like, oh, here it is. Here's the 1 minute spiel. No, you're not going to get it like that.
Watch this 2-minute YouTube video.
That's not us.
Yeah.
That's not us.
Agreed.
That we're not going to summarize. But what I do think is that we'll have like a mere mortal explanation. So we might do a rambling 10 minutes, but it's a very just like general, everyday perspective on like, oh, this is what they are to me and how they kind of apply to me, and here's the examples, or at least relating it back to like everyday people.
Yeah,
that's what I think we're going to get good at.
Yeah, when I was talking with Brendan the other night, he was commenting that, oh, I think you're actually really good at keeping the convo flowing, and even if it's sort of inconsequential stuff. I was telling him the story about me in the Macca's car park. And you know, that's a story without a point, really. There's no climax or anything like that. And at the end I just went, yeah, but the spaghetti was all right. And he just thought, man, that was good. And then I'd ask him like another question of like, you know, have you ever had a disappointing spaghetti? Is that even possible?
Yeah, well,
and so he was like, he felt that was a skill I'd actually was good at, which was, I suppose, something I probably wouldn't have been as good as that before the podcast.
Beforehand, yeah.
But yet, making it something clear, no, that's not my skill.
No. But I'd even question like what's more valuable in a generalized form, because explaining something to like the true essence and encapsulating it like in a really nice, impactful way. Don't get me wrong, like, that's fantastic. You should have that. But again, not everyone's going to be like that. Everyone has got the potential to explain things at a mere mortal level. Like everyone's got the potential to just explain things in a very generalized, very connected way, no matter like what position you may be.
And if that was the only thing that mattered, long form podcasts would, those 4-hour podcasts would not be a thing, because that's yes, you go over many topics, but they're not explained well.
And to be honest with you, I think I prefer that type of explanation more than the really succinct one. And by that I mean,
because you can put in the caveats. This is etc. etc. Apart from, and then you can add the 2-minute caveat, which actually is useful.
Yeah, well, the clear example for me was what's his name? Bloody the dude who writes all about the Stoics, Ryan Holiday. Ryan Holiday's. I haven't read any of the books, but I have watched a couple of videos of Ryan Holiday. So ones where like they're very compact, they've got all the information, and I like them. But for me, the takeaway was like, I forget them. Not that I forget them easily, but it's not as impactful as just recently. I listened to him with Lewis Howes on School of Greatness, and like it was like a long hour and plus conversation about some of the things he puts together. But it was more a generalized conversation, explained a little bit more for like the masses and everyone understands. And I was like, oh man, I took from that way more than most of the very compact stuff that he puts out. So for me, I was like, okay, yeah, I prefer it that way.
Yeah.
So hopefully me and Mortal Lights were going down that path too.
Yeah.
Or explaining it that way. So
his books are okay, but not something that I like. They're not in my top 50
Have
list.
you read them?
I've read a couple. The
Obstacles the Way.
Trust Me, I'm Lying. The Obstacles the Way. Maybe another one. And I read a bunch of his blog a while back.
Yeah.
as well.
Okay. Cool.
Here's another one for you. Talking about podcasts. So. You caught me watching this one, which was Lex and Nic Carter on the Lex Fridman podcast.
So this is an older episode?
Older, but it's like 6 months old. Like it's not that long.
Still quite relevant. Yeah, relevant.
So, Revelations, number 173. And so they're discussing the Ethereum bailout in particular. And so one of the things he was saying was why he is more of a supporter of Bitcoin than any of the other cryptocurrencies
This is Nick, not Lex?
This is Nick saying this, yeah, correct. And so he was saying, they made the decision to change the protocol. So this was one of the big hack that happened in Ethereum.
Oh, yeah.
And a bunch of people lost money, and it was sort of like just sitting there untouchable.
Yeah, because that still was like lost. Like you could see it, but yeah.
Yeah, and it's not like someone had stolen it, but it was still just sitting there doing nothing. And he was saying, that them changing the rules to fix that was sort of breaking the, I guess, like implied ethics of
We're
not the cryptocurrencies here are the rules. There shouldn't be a group or one person able to break the rules, no matter what the reason. You know, you could say that was for a good reason, bad. Who cares?
Yeah.
And he was saying that's one of the things that he didn't like, and so ensuring that the little guy didn't feel the short-term pain. So I wanted to ask you, as humans, we want to help the starving child to give away everything we have. So, you know, you're a doctor in somewhere and you see a child and you're like, I would do anything to take away this child's pain. Even though, but you sort of acknowledge, I can't do that because if I gave everything to them, you know, then I'm in financial distress, then I can't help other people in the future, etc., etc. So I was wondering, what if the best thing for the world would be to make AI more inhuman, so that they...
More inhuman.
Yeah, so I have a feeling that the AI researchers and stuff are trying to make it more human-like in many respects. So this is where you see that the AI robot, for example, when it was giving out paroles or suggesting who should be up for parole and whatnot in some of the US systems, it got some racial bias into it, because it was saying...
But it has a racial bias because of the statistics.
Yeah, exactly. So it was based in the statistics of, I think it was African Americans were committing more crimes, so it was therefore deciding, hey, they should not get as parole as often or as soon as
a white
or an Asian or whoever. So I'm just wondering, like, maybe we need to make AI more inhuman, and that was a bad thing. Everyone was saying that's really bad, etc. And maybe it was. I don't know. I haven't researched it enough. If you had to look and say at the AIs, should we make them more inhuman so that they can make those decisions that a human can't?
Yeah, it's a good point.
We were talking the other week about those things that we think so this was the intersubjectivity, a truth that everyone believes but isn't wrong. That is, everyone believes but is probably wrong, or it contradicts things. And so there's all sorts of stats related to IQ and race. Like you can't touch that subject or you get blasted.
You'll get wrecked.
Anytime people touch the sexuality topic, that usually you get blasted for it. Like, it's just so controversial. Should the AI be like,
is this going to be another one of those polarizing things?
Do not give a fuck, and I'll make the hard decisions that you humans can't make.
Yeah, I think there's some value to having that, to be honest. I think there is some value to having AI that is more inhumane, or at the very least, I think when you say inhumane or not as humanistic, it can rub people the wrong way. I would almost just say an AI that is more... It's only subject to the data and like the reality of the world, as opposed to our subjectivity of humans. So, like, for instance, like, if in reality it's like the paperclip maximization sort of conversation, where it's like, you know, you teach an AI to make as much paperclips, so it basically just like destroys everything and just makes paperclips,
makes the whole universe
into paperclips. But so you also have to like bound it. You can't make it obviously like insane, but there could be a means to say, you know, if the best way to actually, let's say, you get an AI to go and pose some questions to it about cleaning up a lake or whatever, and actually the reality of it is like, okay, well, all humans have to move away from like 100 kilometers away from it because you're all polluting it and blah blah blah. Cool, okay, well, that might be what we have to do. Like, that's the decision. But, you know, maybe like 1,000 people live around the area and they're like, oh, well, now we're going to do this. Okay, maybe the more, you know, pushback, looking at the reality of, you know, if that's the outcome you're looking for, that's the best way you're going to do it. Okay, maybe that's what we got to do, even though it might not support what a human actually wants.
It's almost like, is taking into account feelings, does that help?
Well, how much value
does that hurt more? Is it better to take more account of it or less account of it?
Well, I think it can. Taking feelings into account might not produce the best outcome, but if the outcome is only felt by humans who are feeling feelings and emotions, then maybe it is better to just have the more, lesser efficiency or lesser outcome achievement, but it's actually more valuable to the humans who absorb it. And just fuck the rest of the animals and everyone else who fucking takes it on.
Good.
Well, it's in a similar thing with, I mean, it's not so much to the AI, but they were talking about well, to talk about Yuval in *Sapiens* was just saying at the kind of tail end of the book around how since the Industrial Revolution, or the agricultural revolution through to the industrial and now to today, like for millennia, right, for 70 millennia or more, like a lot of humans just lived with animals, and everyone kind of like they ate animals, but you weren't like killing a ton load of them. It was all this sort of thing. And then we've killed like
It's more in your face.
10, 20,
Yeah.
50 billion, animals in the last whatever it is since the Industrial Revolution or whatever. And it's like the greatest genocide like ever of like killings of things. But like for most humans, we're just like, man, doesn't matter, because like what we care about is other humans. We don't really care, most people, unlike just sitting there being like, oh shit, like all of these animals are getting kicked. Like, not many people are thinking that.
Yeah.
Some people do, for sure. Like, and that's reasons why people go vegan or other reasons. Like, understandable.
Yeah, and that's because it's it's hidden, it's abstracted away.
Yeah,
It's
but
not in my
what if an
face.
AI ends up going like, as you say, like makes a decision about, I don't know, something, and you try to take away the human thing, and it might be like, well, yeah, if you want to have the most, things alive, I guess, and it takes into account like cows and animals and all whatever, and it's like, oh, actually, no, just kill all these humans here, and then you'll just have a much better like landscape. It's like, okay, maybe we won't do that because there's a self-interest in actually wanting something that's positive to a human.
For sure.
What about you? Well, from on the question, do you think it'd be worth it?
Yeah, I would say inclining them to be a bit less touchy-feely and more, more willing to have a lot of people angry or sad or feeling guilty or whatever, and sort of discounting that a lot, because those are usually pretty short-term feelings. You're not going to feel angry about that decision that your local politician made 3 years later,
True, yeah.
but the decision you made could have been fantastic.
Yeah, look, I'll give you a real world example. So like this
Please
starts
do.
going into like a mere mortal way.
Yep.
So when I purchased my apartment, I had a lot of emotions in that. Right, I had a lot of emotions and feelings. Did I do some calculations around it? For sure, in terms of like, is it going to be a good investment? What's going to be the rent return? Blah blah blah. Did all that, but by the by, it was more of an emotional purchase. Now, I could see that if I had let's just say an AI or something that assisted me, and it was less personal. So I didn't take my feelings into account, but it was much more about just numbers in, numbers out, and what's going to be the best outcome in terms of like location, proximity, walking, fuel, growth, all sorts of stuff.
Your ability to repay the loan.
Sure,
Your
I might have ended up.
expected stuff,
I might have ended up with a better property, like and like undoubtedly, if I used like some sort of AI to do that, sure, end up with a better property. So that would have been like a good thing from that perspective of like, oh, if the outcome's a good investment or a good asset, cool, doing that would have been better. And if it took less of my emotion, because it's the addition of my emotion there that reduced the ultimate outcome of it.
Yeah.
So
I was saying on the chat that I had with what's his name, Jordan Lakalides.
I think I'm going to say Jordan Peterson. I was like, what?
Jordan Pearson, Jordan Belford. Yeah, we're in good contact. I was saying with him, the thing with money is like, it really shouldn't be fun. If you're doing it correctly, I feel like
Should be boring.
It should be kind
Should
of
be boring,
boring.
exactly.
You're reading annual reports, things like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
The
sort
more
of go into
boring
that.
you can get your money, or your money management, the better it's probably doing.
Yeah, and AI would be great for that.
Yep.
But before we get onto that AI realm, we're still in the realm of humans, and so I wanted to ask you from this. So, really thinking about the short term versus long term decision making.
Yeah.
Would you have the capacity to make the tough call? So I'm talking about you're putting yourself. You're that dude who had the opportunity to respond with nukes when he was in Russia, and he thought there was a glitch. He thought nukes were coming. Would you have the capacity to be, no, I'm not going to do that? And also in things like Churchill, so he could have invaded Germany, or like fought Germany when they retook the Rhineland, when they had barely any army, and etc. etc. Do you think you've got the ability to make the short term, the decision that was probably better for the long term, but is extremely stressful in the short term? Vitalik as well, deciding to refund that people's money, or the GFC. It probably, once again, I'm not going to say much about history, but in terms of making that decision, which is probably better for the long term.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Not bailing out the banks in the GFC, that sort of thing. Do you think you personally have that capacity where you're the one?
I think I will say simply, I think everyone has that capacity. Like, I think everyone has the capacity to make that decision in terms of making it so that you look at the long term, not for the short term,
and tolerate that very short term stress of
Do people have
emotion, grief, anger?
Maybe not
guilt.
everyone's got capacity. Do I have the capacity? I say sure. Yeah, I definitely have capacity. Would I actually go and do that though? That's
what I mean. That's what I'm asking. Do you think you would?
Well, then I wouldn't say it's capacity. I would say would that be like the ability or the default thing? And I would say no way.
Yeah.
Like, not in many things. In only certain things that I'm like maybe really more knowledgeable about, I would do things for the long term as opposed to the short term. So I'm thinking here specific things about lifting, or where in the sense of I'll do the right thing here for the long term because it's better than the short term gain, right? But everything else, no way, dude. I think it's just I think it's a fool's errand if you think that come that point you would be more gravitated towards looking at the long term unless you knew it like really well. That would be kind of my take. So like in the example of the what was your first example before Churchill? So the nuclear bomb, the nuclear dude. I would have fucking pressed that button, 100%. But like I'm trying to put myself like I think about it and I go, oh yeah, I think I would have done the same. Like I would have held out. No fucking way. I would have been like, it's time to do it. This thing's coming. I would have ended the world. I would have ended up for sure. And I don't know many people who would be like that. Would be a in the moment thing. I don't know. What about yourself? What do you think?
I think like right now, if you just transported me as I am right now, I think I'd have the capacity to be like, I don't give a fuck. I don't care. That makes sense to do it more long term. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling you don't get to those positions of power of being able to press the button without, I don't know, being more inclined to the really focusing on the short term sort of stuff. So I have a feeling like the more invested I was in that position of me being that dude who rose to the rank of that, or me being Churchill, or me being Vitalik, I think I would probably cave under the pressure and just go, nah, I can't deal with this. I think this is, I have to do this for the short term.
Like the only point that I can imagine myself not caving is when you are like at a very high level of confidence. Like if you've got let's just put numbers 95% confident on something, and you can go, I can see this is going to happen, so I could fine to go through the short term pain for the long term benefit. Wonderful. Like say that's come for me from like a training perspective. I'm like, okay, I don't know. Like an extreme example would be like, sure, I could go and do like 2 weeks of like intense training to try and like get these goals I'm setting for, and like absolutely break myself and maybe get it. But I know like long term from a health perspective, I'm able to just train on my particular cadence and slowly gather, increase skills with it, and I'll get there. Like that's a foregone conclusion for me. It's just putting in the work, going over a long time. So if you know stuff like that, maybe you can be confident to do that. But yeah, in like especially those sort of circumstances, like you don't even know. Like it's like the first time you've ever encountered it too. So it's like I think that the natural reaction of a mere mortal, is just like, okay, just go with whatever your gut says at that point. To be honest, like it skips the rational brain. I think at most part for it.
Yeah, for sure. You have anything else, or should I get on to
good. I think we should go into the Boostagram. Now, what are we calling the Boostagrams? You called it something for the Valley for Valley podcast.
I called it the Boostagram Lounge there.
Yeah, Boostagram Lounge there.
I've just been saying Boostagram time here. But
let's do it, Boostagram time. With the music as well.
No music, man. I was thinking over this, and the problem is, one, you can do that. That's totally fine. But the problem is, I'd have to either just cut it off right now, which I really dislike cutting and editing. One, it just...
Why? Why would I have to cut?
Well, what's going to be happening right now? Like, where's the music coming in? It's because it's going to be going over us talking. It's going to be...
Like, it'll be like, it's Boostagram time, and as we're talking, it'll be like, Boostagram!
I'm not doing it. You can do the editing. I can send you the full finished file if you want, and you can put it in, but I'm not doing that.
For now, folks, when we go, it's just going to be Boostagram!
That's what I fucking thought. All right, so here we go. So the first one is from The Slav.
The Slav.
So we know who that is. Admiral Life Goals. How do you find the time to work a job? 500 sat sent using Podfriend.
Good.
I think this was actually a good thing to talk about, because we do have some new people who haven't joined in from day dot. So give me your life story one in a minute.
In a minute?
Yeah, just the general stuff.
As in to explain to people like what our general like life is?
Just you.
Dang. Yeah. Okay. Very quickly, Born in Colombia, came over to Australia in 2001, September 26. Lived in Sydney for a little while, moved up to Brisbane, lived here ever since. So 20 years, I think, in Brisbane, basically.
Yep. So you came when you were 9 years old?
That's right, correct? 9 years old. Studied, learned English here, studied engineering, became an engineer, got sick of that, went and did some other stuff in tech world, started the podcast about 2 years ago, and in between there, just enjoyed traveling, dancing, and lifting, lots of lifting, 11 plus years of lifting.
Yeah.
So that's basically in a nutshell. What about you? How would you explain it in 1 minute?
I usually just say like pretty standard bloke. I think pretty standard bloke. So yeah, born in Brisbane. I'm pretty Aussie as can be, I guess. My dad's family is as far back as I know, Australians, like born and raised here. Mum's from New Zealand, but don't really have that much New Zealand culture in me, and it's pretty similar to Australia. So that's sort of like my heritage. Born and raised in Brisbane, been here all my life essentially. Was a pretty shy kid.
Traveled. When was the first time you travelled?
Well, I mean, I was travelling to and from New Zealand a lot.
That doesn't count.
But yeah,
outside New Zealand.
So first time I travelled properly was 2018. So I was 25, 26.
Yep.
And very similar to you. Like we met each other in high school, so we've known each other since we were 13, so 16 years now. And did engineering, sort of conquered a bunch of fears that I had. So those probably like the most interesting part about me, I guess, is the way I would conquer them. And conquer is a strong word.
He was very much pussy face.
Yeah. Oh, huge.
Slav, dude.
100%.
Huge.
I would not be able to talk to girls. I would not even be able to say like hi to people on the street. It was a crushing anxiety. It's terrible. Sort of, conquered is a strong word. I think managed. I got them down overcame. Because they're still somewhat in there. If I don't focus on them for a while, they'll creep back in.
Actually, the reality of it is, even with doing podcasting, I don't think 24-year-old me could do podcasting outside. I don't think having a camera on me and people kind of walking around I don't think I could have actually done that. I would have been very tentative. I would have gone and maybe gone a little bit like self-conscious, and let's just go do it where it's a little bit more hidden away.
Especially when we're wearing stupid shit like this thing.
And like today, we were like, the conversation now, like, let's find where's like the most amount of people that could potentially see us. Like, that's that would not have happened many years ago. I guess that's the sort of stuff that we talk about when we say overcame things.
But to get to his question, where to find the time? So I
make the time.
Exactly. I used to work in the mines, engineer. Saved up a bunch of money from that, and I'm sort of coasting at the moment. So I'm neither gaining nor losing assets, which is nice. So that's just from investment wise.
Living in perpetual. Bliss.
I'm in. And so which gives me all the time to do the stuff I love.
Whatever you want.
Podcasting, learning languages, doing handstands, reading books, meditating, blah blah, like whatever, going down the thing that captures my interest for the moment. So
exactly.
At the moment it's German and cryptocurrencies. What will that be like in a year's time? I don't know.
Who knows? Exactly.
Doesn't really matter.
Exactly.
So so I do not work for a living with a job. We were discussing this last night. How I definitely have some. Maybe we'll save that for a podcast.
I think
episode.
so. Yeah, like, that was a very interesting conversation that was happening.
Yeah, that was fun. So thank you. Anyway, thank you, the Slav for sending that through. Much appreciated. The other two that we got were from our man Dave Jones. So Dave, a great show. 2112 sent using Fountain. He likes the 2s and the 1s. Yeah, okay. I've noticed his Boostagrams before.
That's his trend.
Yeah. 2s
and 1s.
I'll have to see if there's a reason behind that. I'm not really sure.
And Bitcoin's been going up quite big, so these guys, and they're still sending some nice payloads.
Yes, very nice. Thank you. And the other one was a great episode. So 2112. Very nice. Using Customatic. So thank you. Thank you, Dave. Much appreciated.
Much appreciated.
And that is it for the Boostagrams.
Very good. All right, well that's it for meanderings as well, folks. We're gonna cut it short there. We're gonna leave it at that. We're gonna say I'm gonna leave you with one item. We obviously just went through and kind of explained a little bit here at the tail end of who we are. If you know people out there, so if you're a long time listener and you know a friend or two who maybe don't know who we are, maybe it's relevant to point them to this last little bit of this podcast, so you can be like, oh look. They kind of summarize a little bit of like what they're doing.
I might make a clip. Who are the mere mortals?
Yeah. That might be an interesting piece. But yeah, beyond that, that's
A
it.
couple of things. So we do have a clips channel. So on YouTube, there
Oh,
is I do put up clips, and that gets posted onto. Oh, geez, where do I post that? It goes onto YouTube. Then also, if you type in Mere Mortals with no space into a couple of the podcast places, you'll find
some of those clips as well.
those clips there. It's
Yep.
a little bit weird at the moment, but whatnot. And got to give a plug for the Discord that we started. So we have a Discord. You'll see it in the show note. Links down below.
Yeah.
And on your screen right now, I'll include the link to that.
Cool. And basically, yeah, I was going to say, what's the purpose of it? Just to come in and have a chat.
Yeah,
That's about
yeah.
that.
Yep.
It's we were thinking about this. We're just like, it's a stream of consciousness. Just it's an ability for you to jump in there and just have a conversation directly.
I'm doing random stuff like putting little videos. So like this will be a video in the podcast. Oh my god, very cool.
It's a Inception.
Inception.
Inception
Yep.
on Inception.
So just little random
stuff like
things
that.
in
That's
there.
right. All right, that's it. Me and Mortal Lex. I hope you enjoyed. One out.
Going out.
Bye, Yost.